keep these tips in mind as you start your essay. First, what is the purpose of an introductory paragraph? It's to get the reader's attention and to set the tone for the rest of the writing. In this paragraph, you're making a contract with the reader on what will be covered in the piece and where the argument will lead. When writing a great first paragraph, keep in mind that you engage your readers right from the start. There are tried and true techniques where you can hook your reader by posing a question, defining key terms, giving a brief story or anecdote or personal experience. You can even use humor or strong emotion as you pull out interesting facts so that your reader becomes interested. Imagery, sensory language, all of these help to connect with the reader. The key is to intrigue them so that they want to read more. When writing your introductory paragraph, keep in mind the power of 3. In every single introductory paragraph you ever write, step 1, hook. Always grab the reader's attention with a statement that is interesting about the topic. Step 2, build some background by briefly explaining in 2 to 5 sentences what the context of the situation is. This information should be relevant background information to lead them to step 3. End your introduction. The very last sentence of your introduction must always be a strong thesis or claim statement. This is your point. This is your main intention that you will prove in the rest of the essay. Remember the power of 3. When beginning your essay, it is difficult, but I want you to think about how you might grab the attention and hook your reader in with an interesting technique that will set your essay apart. This is a chance to be creative and to include your voice in an academic piece of writing. Start it out with a brilliant opening line. There are many types of hooks, but some recommendations would be to use personal experiences or descriptions, famous quotations or wise words, startling facts or research statistics, a series of rhetorical questions about life or deep issues, and helping your essay to be relevant with current events. When using a fact or statistic, keep in mind it must be startling or unusual. Ordinary or blah facts are going to bore your reader. Keep in mind these statistics and facts should also be credible. They should be from reliable sources and not made up. For example, while for 60% of people, milk is the perfect beverage to go with a cookie, that's not true for everyone. A new study shows that up to 40% of people prefer something different with their bedtime snack. So this statistic is something people can relate to, but it also is interesting because it's about an ordinary and common experience like drinking milk and having cookies. Use a fact or statistic to draw people into your essay. Here's another example where you might have to write a scientific or informational piece. Facts and statistics can lead you into those thesis statements with relevant information. This essay would be about smoking-related diseases, knowing that it can cause an estimated 440,000 American deaths strikes the reader as shocking and bothersome. They would keep reading to find out why and how we can do about it. Another technique for your hook is to use a famous quotation. Keep in mind these criterion, however, to make sure that it is interesting and does indeed hook your reader. Is it dramatic? Does it emotionally appeal to them? Does it surprise us? Does it make us laugh? The quote doesn't have to be from a famous person, such as Martin Luther King or a president of our past, or perhaps even a famous musician. But that quote must be relevant to the thesis statement and must speak to the reader. Here's an example where you'll see the quotation is set apart at the very beginning of the introductory paragraph. The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. Now, this thought by John Milton was recorded over 400 years ago, but using this famous quotation to lead us to a thesis helps us to see the universal appeal, or see how the theme could relate over time. Another technique for a hook statement is to use a series of interesting questions. I want to be sure that you know that these thought-provoking rhetorical questions aren't intended to be answered by the reading audience, but to engage them to think deeply about the topic. My suggestion is to use at least 3 of these deep questions in a row. They'll have a greater impact than just one thrown out there about the topic itself. Make sure they're relevant, and make sure these universal truths relate to any reader. As you build background, keep in mind there are about 2 to 3 sentences in your introductory paragraph that should give context to the essay's main topic. This element of the introductory paragraph is what we call the bridge. It's a good place for where you would include the author or the title of the work. It would also be a good place to set some context for your argument or research topic. And ultimately, this is going to smoothly connect the hook statement, the attention grabber, to your claim or your thesis. The bridge falls right in the middle of your introductory paragraph and serves as a section to smoothly connect. The final portion of your introductory paragraph is really the most important. This is where you'll answer the question and make your claim. Be sure that you are clearly stating your position that you are about to prove. For example, in literature, in Of Mice and Men, George made the right decision. This is a debatable claim that, for those of us who have read this text, know it's a controversial end to that novella. The other ways that claims can be used are when you're talking about debate topics. Given a question about a controversial issue, once you answer that, you are making a claim or a statement. Now, keep in mind, these could be opinions. You want to avoid phrases like I believe, I think, because it will make your claim sound weak. But if you declare it strongly, school should be year-round, then you better be prepared to support it with good reasoning. One note of caution. Keep in mind, announcements can be very insulting and boring to your reader. It might be obvious, so you want to make sure that you avoid statements that announce what you're about to do. This essay will discuss. I am going to write about. When you make these announcy statements, it interrupts the flow and the confidence of writing. Be assertive. Be declarative. Avoid phrases that are obvious and announcy in your writing. Here's an example of an introductory paragraph, and you'll see that each section is marked out where the hook, imagine the jungle surrounds you and one of the most talented hunters in the world is pursuing you, semicolon, would you stand your ground? This paints a picture, asks a rhetorical question, and leads me into the background where I learn that Richard Connell's short story, The Most Dangerous Game, the title, the author, the background of the situation ultimately leads to my thesis, where in green, Rainsford is one of the bravest characters in literature because, here's my reasons, not easily frightened, he jumps into the sea, he defeats Zaroff by outsmarting him. So notice the pattern here, hook, bridge, claim. Seeing this in another way, notice that each introductory paragraph begins with a broad, universal appeal. The hook, love is a toxic medicine, holding the ability to both heal and harm, relates to a lot of readers. When you start to narrow in on the thesis, you begin to, with the bridge and the background, perhaps the summary, set the tone for the point that you will prove. So it pinpoints back to our claim where ultimately Hearst used the complicated relationship between Doodle and brother to show that love always contains some drops of poison. Now, whether you have read this story, The Scarlet Ibis, or not, you can see that each introductory paragraph has a pattern: hook, bridge, thesis claim. Let's recap and make sure that you understand how to incorporate these three elements, the power of three, into an introductory paragraph. First, get your reader's attention by using a strategy to pique the interest of the topic. Let's avoid any announcy statements and be creative, imaginative, and original with your first brilliant opening line. In the middle of the introductory paragraph, build some background so that as you're presenting your topic, you give information that gives some background, sets some context, or really simply includes an author and a title of the work that you are analyzing. The most important step is that you need a claim. Every piece of writing needs a direction, and when you state your thesis, you are proving or helping to clarify the main point that will be supported for the rest of the essay.